In this episode, the best new F1 liveries, the Kyalami 9-hour, and NASCAR races in Fontana. Welcome to episode 183 of the We Are Auto Show. What's up, Derek?
Mr. Michael Rao, last weekend there was some racing happening. This weekend is going to be kind of wild. But first, let's talk about F1.
It is starting to get to the time where F1 conversations should be had. And I think to kind of help hype us and everyone else up for the 2023 season, we should take a look at the liveries.
Yeah, because these have been trickling out on social media, and we haven't looked at them yet. But let's take a quick gander, okay?
Yeah. So I think after this, we should also give our ranking of like top 3 liveries or something like that.
Sure.
So immediately we got the Haas, which is kind of less Russian looking, which is kind of good.
I agree. It is less Russian. They went with MoneyGram as the sponsor, which is a little interesting.
Money remittance. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it could be worse.
Moving on. Could be a Russian oligarch.
Right. Williams has kind of stuck with the little to no paint theme.
Yes, but there's one tricky thing about the Williams that I just adore.
What might that be?
Look at the airbox above the driver.
The Duracell battery.
They made it actually look like the battery.
Yeah, that is super cool.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Quick note, though, they are keeping the carbon look on the bottom, and that is actually for weight savings purposes.
Is it?
Yes, they did that all last year, and they've continued that this year. That is still a talking point in the paddock that they need to get to minimum weights, and they're all over minimum weights at the moment. So they're actually pulling paint off the car. It's that bad.
Wow.
Yeah, they did that all last season as well.
Interesting. I do like the look of the Williams, though.
It does look good.
We have the most unchanged car in the world. That'd be the Red Bull.
Yeah, I think this was the first car to come out, and the meme online was just should have been an email. Just, you could have just said, guys, we rolled last year's car out, emailed us a photo, would have been good. They did this hour-long thing. They streamed to all their social media, had the big curtain unveil, and everybody saw it and went, isn't that just last year's car? Huh.
Yes.
Okay. Should have been an email.
Totally should have been an email. 100% should have been an email.
I mean,
it's a good-looking car.
Looks great, yeah. But, yeah, just seems silly.
Doesn't look any different than last year.
No.
Now we have the Alfa Romeo. What's different about this car?
What is different about this car?
They've gone with the negative theme. Last year it was white and red. This year it's black and red.
And you'll notice a lot of carbon fiber showing through on that front wing. Not much paint, is there?
Not much paint. But I am kind of liking the whole dark theme this year. Cars look very sinister.
Yes, I am a fan of the dark theme. Another quick note on the wings, on the wing tips. Yeah. You'll see as we scroll through them, there's a little bit of leeway that the rulebook has that you can do whatever you want on that outer wing tip.
Yeah.
And also right at the end of basically the back of the wingtips, you also have leeway to do whatever you want. So keep an eye on those two areas as we scroll through these photos. And you'll see the teams doing different aerodynamics to mess with the wings.
Interesting.
There are not that many places on these new cars that you can have the crazy wing stuff going on. Yeah, so those are the two that you're going to see this season where they're going to utilize a lot of stuff. Yep.
Yeah, it's not like from a while ago where you had like
the front wings were
fins
insane.
On wings and wings on fins
they
and
were
everything.
DTM cars, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Moving on to the McLaren, which looks again like they've gone for a darker theme, meaning stripping paint off to show more carbon. Looks good. Again, I love the look of the McLaren.
These cars, I will say, these cars have grown on me a lot. These new cars.
I kind of. You were such a naysayer at first.
Yeah.
But now you poo-pooed the look of the new car a lot when it first came out.
After this season, they do look pretty good.
I can dig it.
Yeah. Another quick note, I don't think we'll have a good photo of it, but in preseason testing, they will have a wire, a carbon fiber wire that will go around the body on the very floor. Have you seen that?
No, I've seen the like the grates that they put behind those.
In order to get around a rules regulation where the body has to be so wide, they have found a loophole where if you take a string of carbon fiber, literally a string of it, and you string it around the point where the body has to be so wide, technically that wire is part of the body, but the rest of the carbon and everything doesn't have to attach to it in any meaningful way. So you'll see on the edges of the cars, a string of carbon fiber will be there. And they'll have little tiny supports coming out just to hold it up on that outside. But then the bodywork will be really tucked away, and it won't actually come to the edge. So that's another one of those weird rule gray areas that will probably get patched after this season. But this season, you're going to see a lot of bodywork near the floor kind of rolled around and have this odd structure on the edge.
You know what? If there's a loophole, they need to be exploited.
That's how F1 works, and that's totally fine as long as they're exploiting them and then they get patched afterward.
Yeah. That's part of the game.
Right.
So we got the Aston here, which looks almost no different than last year. Small changes.
Yep. You'll also notice more black, more carbon fiber showing. Almost every single car has had some paint stripped away in certain places.
Yep.
Pretty crazy.
Definitely. The AlphaTauri now, not really a great look at it, but it doesn't look very different than last year.
No, I do think it has the big front white. I think that's a little different. Not a ton.
It might be.
Yeah, but it's Alpha.
Maybe a little bit different, but not. I don't think it's massively different.
No. Apparently, in preseason testing, this car was the best.
Which is?
The Ferrari.
The Ferrari.
Yes. And then almost a close second was guess who?
Wasn't it the Alpine?
Williams.
Oh, that's right. It was the Williams.
Williams was surprisingly fast.
Let's go, Logan Sargent. Please get the American boys some podiums. Let's go.
How cool would that be?
God, I would love that so much.
Ferrari looks relatively the same to last year. Looks good.
It does. Yep.
See no big problems there. I do see the bodywork near the cooling section, right near the engine. They have these big dips, basically, and they had those last year. A lot of teams are starting to utilize those and incorporate those into their car. The one team that's still not, is Mercedes. Remember how last year they tried to get away from the air intakes?
Yeah, they went no side pods.
Right, no side pods at all. They're still sticking with their no side pod game. They're very kind of odd looking side pods.
Yeah, it's odd looking. This is the Mercedes we're looking at now. And I gotta tell you, I love it.
Do you?
I love it in black.
I like it in black. I think it looks pretty good. Just notice the difference as I scroll between these two. From the Ferrari side pods and the whole swoosh right where the coolant is and where the radiators are, to the Mercedes, which has nothing. There's no side. There's an air intake there, but man, it's narrow.
So tiny.
And it's tall as opposed to like wide.
Yeah, it's tall and narrow versus short and fat and wide.
Right.
So I like the look of the Mercedes a lot this year. For some reason, when a Mercedes, when it's black, is just good.
You don't like the silver arrows?
I don't mind them, but to me, the black with the blue, that is just that works for me.
Rounding it out. Final team.
Is this the final team?
Alpine.
It is the final team, isn't it? Alpine. Doesn't look a whole lot different than last year.
No, really doesn't.
I do like the blue and pink, though.
And you can definitely see some carbon exposed.
Yeah, the BWT, the Alpine, the blue and the pink. I like the blue and the pink.
Yep.
I do. So, your top 3 favorite liveries?
My top 3. Ferrari's in the top 3. I'd have to go Williams in the top 3 because they have the Duracell, which is just an amazing use of the bodywork.
Yeah,
to be honest. And then after that, it's really kind of a toss-up. I don't know. I'll go McLaren because I don't really like the side ducts on the. I'm
Mercedes. Talking livery only. Just look at the car.
Nah, it's Mercedes. I can't like Mercedes. I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it.
I don't like the team, but my top 3 are Williams.
Yep.
Alpha.
Ooh.
And Mercedes.
Okay.
I really like the black and the blue in the Mercedes. That That's good to me. It's so
Alpha.
sinister. I like that.
You like the inverted?
I like that inverted black and red. And I like how they did paint on the wheel cover things.
Mm-hmm.
I like the new Alpha.
F1 cars this year do look pretty darn good. Quick other little note about F1. You know how Mr. Andretti is trying to get into F1 with the US-based team? Apparently, from what rumors are swirling, the bid to get into F1 has gone from $200 million to $600 million.
Holy shit!
Yeah. And Mr. Andretti himself is willing to still pay the money to get in because he has the backing of, who is it? GM with Cadillac, correct? He has the backing of his own team, which is humongous anyway, and some big sponsors as well. Now, from what I know, they were trying to get him to pull out of the deal by throwing numbers around like that. And he said, no, that's fine.
Yeah, it's always funny when like there's two parties in a deal, and one party is just like, name your price, and they really don't want to sell, so they just name this most ridiculous price, and they're like, okay, I'll go write you a check.
Sure,
like that's fine.
Yep,
$600 million. Okay, I'll just pay you tomorrow. That's fine.
There was another interesting note in the motorsport world that somebody said, with that money, you could buy the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indian Series.
Oh my
with
God.
That money. You could buy the entire series and the track with all that money.
When you put that into perspective, oh my God.
Yeah.
So for the same amount of money as a bid to get into F1, you could buy the entire series of Indy and the track.
The most famous race that they have.
Oh my God.
And he is big in the Indy scene, right? The Andretti Motorsports is one of the best teams in that paddock.
The perspective of that is just kind of mind-boggling for me.
It is bonkers.
It's hilarious, but mind-boggling at the same time.
You think about it. He could have bought the WEC, IMSA, SRO, like all together for the bid to have one team in F1.
Just for the bid to have one team in F1. Why don't you just go buy IMSA?
He could. And the WEC and the SRO. I don't think you could get Indy in there as well, but you could get at least the three top series of sports car racing, or the IndyCar series with the track, or just have one F1 team. Okay.
When you actually compare it like that, it just sounds ridiculous.
But you know what that means? There's ROI there. There's a return. There's a $600 million return for starting a team in F1.
Oh, God.
Yep.
Again, we're now getting into the territory where regular human beings can't comprehend that amount of money.
No. Nope. 600 mil is a lot, especially for an F1 team. We'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. It's not been finalized or anything, but those are the rumors that it went from 200 mil to 600 mil. Andretti's still in. We'll see what happens.
We will see what happens.
Yep.
So let's move on to a quick recap of a race that did happen this past weekend. There was the Kyalami 9-hour.
Yeah.
GT3 spec cars. And I think a couple of GT4s thrown in there.
There were indeed.
Mm-hmm. So, not a big field.
No. How many was it? 13 cars?
13-ish cars.
I think 13 started the race,
yeah,
which was not great. And then there was, I don't remember the length, but after the first hour and a half-ish, I think the GT4 cars were done. It was one of those SRO events where they have a race happening inside of a race. They've done this in the past. They did this for this same specific series, the Intercontinental GT Challenge Series, IGTC. Mm-hmm. You can go watch it on our website, by the way. I do have all of it up there. But this does some cool stuff. This does the Spa 24. This does the Bathurst 12.
It does.
This also does the Kyalami 9. And there's one more.
Is it Dubai 24?
I can't remember. Can't remember the last one.
Somewhere.
There's one more. Anyway, this was the Kyalami 9-hour. Kind of a small field, which is a bit of a worry.
Not kind of. A very small field.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, you know how many GT4 cars there were?
How many?
1.
Oh, boy.
It won its class.
You can't lose.
You are not losing.
You can't lose.
So not a very big class. Let me just quickly run you through the top 3 finishers. You had the number 3 came to an Audi R8, and that was Tresor Attempto Racing, driven by Mattia Drudy, Ricardo Feller, Patrick Niederhauser. Second place, Augusto Farfus, Philip Engel, and Maxime Martin, right? So we know some good names there. That was in BMW M4. Then you had the winner, which was the other team, WRT BMW M4, Sheldon Vanderland, Dries Vantor, and I mean, this was... It's sad because the 4th place finisher was a lap down.
Yeah, that's kind of the unfortunate thing about having such a small field. Unless everyone's at the exact same pace, which you're not going to be over a 9-hour race, you're kind of going to have a breakaway. And from what it looks like on what I saw, there was a breakaway of 3 cars, 2 BMWs, 1 Mercedes, that kind of battled it out till the end, which was good to see. But you want to see more cars. Even the Bathurst 12 had 20, 25 cars, something like that. So I don't, Kyalami with that little of a field, I would find it kind of hard pressed unless they got some good commitments from other teams if they're going to keep on running the Kyalami 9, which is unfortunate because prior to COVID, this had like 30 cars in it, and it was an awesome race.
It was.
But post-COVID, the travel is kind of crazy to go all the way to Kyalami. It's South Africa? And South Africa. It's way down there.
Johannesburg, I believe.
Right.
Yeah,
so
it's South Africa isn't really near anyone else's racing.
No.
Like, you can't, pop over to South Africa on the way to anywhere. It's so far south that you have to make a special trip for it.
Right, and I see that they put this in the schedule before all the big stuff starts. There's no Indy, there's no F1, right? You can slot it in there. In theory, it could be good. But I just don't think that people want to travel down there. It's too far.
Too far, too much restriction. Yeah, I agree.
It's just too far. This IGTC series in general is kind of wild because you go to, I think, Indianapolis 8-hour is the final one.
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like
Weird.
Indy, Bathurst, Kyalami, and Spa. It's all over the world. And that's a lot of travel expense to run 4 races.
It's a lot. Or what they could do is they could be like the Asian Le Mans series and just race 4 races in 2 weekends.
That's the flip side of the whole.
That is the most opposite end of the spectrum there.
Right. Your whole season's done in 2 weeks, but your season only lasted 2 weeks, and it was like, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the Kyalami 9-hour. I watched a little bit of it. I would have loved to see more cars. Yeah, that's my biggest note there. Were there any other races that happened this past weekend?
There was. There was another one that happened in the good old US of A, in the good old rednecks of NASCAR we're all watching.
Yes, sir.
NASCAR was in Fontana, California. They start the season in Daytona, and then they decide, let's go all the way across the country to California to race another race. All right, sure, let's do it.
That makes sense.
So that's where they went. And this photo really sums up Fontana. Auto Club Speedway is the name of the track. And holy moly, they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wide. And this track is crazy.
You've got people sprawled out on the apron. You've got like 4 lanes with buffer between. You could easily run like 7 wide comfortably.
Right. And the cool thing about this track is you have increasing banking as you go up the track.
Yeah,
so there's
it's
a
like
reason.
Exponential banking.
Right. There's a reason to go way high, but there's also a reason to stay way low.
Yeah.
And depending on how you set the car up, you can either run real high or run real low. And you can make equivalent track time on both setups, which is really cool to see.
What do you think would be a better way to do it?
As far as what?
I don't know.
Just racing in general?
Yeah.
I think that this is a pretty darn good setup. I kind of like it.
But do you think it should be, like, if you're going to race that, would you think it'd be better or more advantageous to set your car up to run high or low?
Honestly, the way everyone was running this race, it looked like the high line was the fast line. I think it would be very dependent upon track conditions, tire wear, and it seems like that day, with that temperature, with those tires, the high line was the fastest way.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was really hot and slick, you'd hug the inside and try not to slide up into the wall. I don't know. But it's neat to have the diversity of lines in a track like this.
Yeah, it's not just you have to take the same line round. You've got so many different places to go.
Couple other little notes. The onboard cameras, there were at least 2 cars that had onboard cameras where the actual lens of the camera was shattered due to debris, like rocks and sand. And if you watch the start of this race, there's dust and rocks and stuff everywhere. This is kind of in the desert, Fontana is, which is kind of cool. But this racetrack is about to be demolished.
No.
Yeah. It's about to go away.
Why?
Which is kind of unfortunate. I believe that NASCAR owns the track, and there's a housing developer that they're selling the track's land to, at least a lot of the land, for, get this, $500 million.
For almost a bid into F1.
Nearly an F1 team. You can nearly buy an F1 team for the amount of land that they're selling for this racetrack. This was a 2-mile oval, Daytona being a 2.5-mile oval. It's a big track, very big track, a lot of land, but they're turning it into housing, which we know that housing next to racetracks usually doesn't do too well. Kind of odd, but apparently this year they're going to be demoing this track, and they're going to turn it into they're talking about a half-mile short track. So they're going to try to still keep a racetrack there, but a lot of fans are kind of calling BS on this and saying, there's no way.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
No way. Where are you going to park all the fans? Where are you going to, why do all this?
It's not going to happen.
And everyone else is basically saying, shoot. Does that mean we're going to have the Daytona 500, and then we're going to go back to California because we have to appease the fans, and what will be the race we'll race in California? What's the race they ran before the Daytona 500?
The Clash.
The Clash at the Coliseum. So if people are worried that the Clash is actually going to become a season race, and that will be the race after the Daytona 500.
Please just say no. No.
I mean,
don't make that a points race.
It's kind of dumb. It's not.
It's dumb that it exists.
Yep. So they're going to ditch this Fontana 2-mile oval that has proper NASCAR racing for the Clash. That's what seems likely.
A complete and utter just trash fest of racing.
Yes. Yes. But will more eyeballs be on it? Yes.
Well, it's in a more heavily populated area, so of course.
Right. That's what matters. God. Racing doesn't matter. Eyeballs matter.
Oh, I hate that you're right.
Unfortunate, but that does seem to be how it's going to go.
I hate so much that you're right, but you're right.
Now, what actually happened at this race? Because we need to talk about who won this race.
Sure. I'll give you top 3. Third place, you had Ross Chastain in a Chevy. Second place, you had Chase Elliott in a Chevy. First place, you had Kyle Busch himself.
Oh, boy. Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch, not Kurt Busch, but Kyle Busch.
The one that everyone hates. Okay, let's talk about Kyle Busch. Because Kyle Busch in the Daytona...
Remind me, is it Kyle or Kurt that everyone hates?
Kyle. Everybody hates Kyle.
Yes, thank you. Okay,
yep.
Kyle. I was getting my Bushes mixed up.
Yep. In NASCAR, generally, he is not the most loved driver. That's fine. Very opinionated against him. Generally, if he wins, you'll hear boos and people are not happy.
He is the Fernando Alonso of NASCAR.
Is there someone in F1 that's like... I don't even...
Alonso.
People like Alonso.
Drivers hate Alonso.
That's because Alonso's a hard racer. People don't like Busch because he talks shit. That's what he does. And that's fine.
You're right.
Drama in sports is a good thing.
No,
it is.
I agree.
It's good to have a hated person in sports. You have to have the villain.
You're right. You do.
I don't know that F1 has a villain right now.
Toto Wolff.
You think it's just Mercedes, the conglomerate of Mercedes?
Yes.
Do you think it's turning into Red Bull as they win championships?
Maybe.
I think it's just the most winning team at that time.
I think you're right, yeah. I think it's the most winning team, but also for how long they've been winning for.
I would not say that Kyle Busch is hated because of that, though. It's different. Kyle Busch is hated because he talks shit, and that's fine. That's okay. Now, the interesting thing about Kyle Busch is, remember, last year, he wasn't going to have a ride.
That's right. Yeah, because his contract was up, wasn't he?
Right. He was driving a Toyota, that M&M's car. I can't remember the team it was on, but he ends up getting a ride, I think, at Richard Children's Racing this year. And remember, the Daytona 500, he was leading the 200th lap. Normally, at the Daytona 500, lap 200 is the end of the race.
Yeah,
if we were still in the era of no green, white checkered, Kyle Busch would have won the Daytona 500, then would have come to Fontana and won Fontana. In a new team with a new manufacturer in a new car. Whoa.
So, will Kyle Busch go down as one of the greatest NASCAR drivers?
Currently, he is one of the best, yes. I don't know if he'll go down as the Jimmy Johnson, the Dale Earnhardt. He's kind of climbing the list, though. He's pretty good.
Is there anyone that could compete with him right now? Who would be the competitor of the best NASCAR driver currently?
I would have said 2 years ago it would have been Kyle Larson, this 5 car that we're looking at here. But I think since the new cars have come out, the playing field is kind of leveled.
What about Chase Elliott?
Chase Elliott's pretty good, but I don't think anybody's as good right now as Kyle Busch. He put on a pretty good performance at Fontana. He did speeding in the pit road, had a penalty, drove from the back to the front to take the win. That's impressive.
That's a good drive.
That's a good drive. And let's be honest, Daytona's a crapshoot. Throw at the dartboard and figure out who wins.
Yeah, it's just so big and long.
With the pack racing, you have no idea who's going to win.
Yeah.
So I think if you put him on 1.5 mile, 2 mile ovals, Kyle Busch has the chance of winning every race, which is pretty impressive.
I mean, he is hated, but he is a hell of a driver.
He is hated. He's a hell of a driver, and good on him for winning. And I will say, there were not a lot of boos when he won. There was some cheering going on. And I think that the fans see that he's in a new car with a new team, and it's pretty impressive what he did.
Yeah, I think people are realizing he's got some real talent.
He does.
He may have a mouth, but he's also got some talent there.
Right.
Interesting.
So, that is the racing that happened this past weekend.
Got it.
Coming up. Oh, let's talk about what's coming up.
Oh, baby.
This weekend, there's a lot of racing. On Sunday, the Lord's Day, you can wake up, hit church real early, right? You get out of church by 10 a.m., turn on F1. Because 10 a.m. starts the Bahrain Grand Prix.
F1 season opener this weekend. Let's go!
Bahrain Grand Prix, 10 a.m. to about noon.
And Williams is going to win it.
Well, settle down. That's Eastern time, so convert that to whatever time zone you're at. After that, St. Pete Grand Prix from 12:30 to about 3. All right?
So you can have some lunch.
Perfect. And then at 2:52, so about 3 o'clock, right when St. Pete ends, NASCAR starts in Las Vegas.
Let's go. And I believe also GT America is racing as a support race for Indy.
Yep, they will be at St. Pete. So will MX-5. So will USF 2000.
Stadium Super Trucks.
I'm
they
not sure.
They usually are.
I'm not. I don't.
They're usually
hold
there.
On. I'll tell you. I don't see them on the schedule. They are not on the schedule. Nope.
This is the first year they're not there.
SRO, GT America, USF Pro 2000, USF 2000. Didn't know there were different series. And then we have the Indy NXT, which used to be
Indy Lights.
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting.
Yep.
Wow, I can't believe the Stadium Super Trucks aren't there.
Nope, they're not. But cool to see back-to-back F1, Indy, NASCAR. And you should, in theory, be able to watch all the races back-to-back.
Boom,
Super
boom,
cool.
boom, 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 boom. awesome. I'm super excited for F1 to be back, Indy to be back, and just more racing in general.
The season is upon us.
Woohoo, baby. And then a couple weeks after that, we have Sebring.
Yep.
Man, this is a great time of the year.
It is.
So that's all I got for episode 183. You got anything else?
I do not.
All right. If you are watching or listening, thank you so much, first and foremost. But if you're watching on YouTube, please leave a thumbs up and drop a comment on the video. Let us know which F1 livery do you rank the highest, which is your absolute favorite for 2023. And if you're listening on audio, send us your livery rankings via social. Facebook is We Are Auto. Instagram is WeAreAuto_. YouTube is We Are Auto. And our website is weareauto.io, where you can go to catch some of your favorite past races. So, thanks again. Catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.